4 months ago, I made a video discussing some of Pixelgun's lost media. Fast forward to today, and 2 of those apps have actually been recovered, which meant now I can not only play them, but actually explore the in-game files. However, what I didn't expect was to be left with more questions than I started with, since I ended up uncovering a completely new lead in the Pixelgun timeline, which, as you'll see, led to me finding another case of a lost app and a potential goldmine of unseen apps. Before we get into the rest, I wanted to cover Minecraft 3D, since I've seen a lot of people refer to this as lost media, as well as a few comments wanting to revisit the game. While it hasn't been lost for a while, it was nearly impossible to find content on the game, or at the very least, a working game file. If you watch my other video discussing the past of Qubit games, then you know just how important Minecraft 3D is to the Qubit games timeline. To refresh your memory, Minecraft 3D was released in 2013. This game would be met with criticism from app reviewers, so much so that it would go on to be mentioned in a couple of articles, with the most common complaint being that it was blatantly ripping off 2 popular games at the time, Temple Run and Minecraft. The name was literally Minecraft 3D Temple to Escape, clearly attempting to hit every search keyword. This app would be one of the first documented examples of public criticism. As you know, it was not the last. Now that this game isn't lost media, I was able to actually play the game and go through the files myself. There were some pretty interesting discoveries I made. Several early games from Realisoft all had one thing in common, which was the mention of a Minecraft skin maker or skin uploader. We would see this mentioned in the app listings for Pixelgun 3D, Pocket Enderman, and Slendy. This will be important later because it'll lead to a new discovery. Similarly, Minecraft 3D would also mention the Minecraft skin uploader as a part of the game, with it being accessible after obtaining 1,000 coins in a single run. It appears that the skin maker in Minecraft 3D came with 16 preset skins, as well as the ability to create your own skins to be used in Minecraft 3D or exported to Minecraft. Oh yeah, they also misspelled Mojang here. Nice. Unlike Minecraft 3D, Pocket Enderman, or its full legal government name, Pocket Enderman Skin Uploader Edition, was actually lost media, which meant the only way for me to actually cover this game in the past was through some really old YouTube gameplay, as well as a few screenshots from third-party sites. To say I was hyped when I was told this game was recovered is an understatement. Pocket Enderman would be released a few months after Minecraft 3D, in January of 2014. Taking one look at the game, it's clear that this was heavily inspired by the Talking Tom and Tamagotchi-like games that were trending at the time. I mean, this was truly a revolutionary app for its time. Just take a listen to the app description. Hey, it is a virtual Ender bro. He can be your best friend if you will take care of, so that he might grow and develop. Leaving us with a truly life-changing quote. If you take care of your Ender bro properly, very soon you will become best friends. Ever. This would serve as the predecessor to the Slendy app. This version has a max level of 15 as well as 4 minigames: Memory Quiz, Magic Rocket, Pixel Mosaic, and Fruit Puzzle. I played through these minigames so I can actually give a first-hand review. Magic Rocket, you tap the screen and slide left and right to collect the coins. Pixel Mosaic is a bit more interesting since it uses the World 1 campaign comics. Then you tap each of the tiles until they're oriented correctly, revealing the full picture. And finally, Fruit Puzzle, which for some reason only contains 2 fruits, with the rest consisting of a chicken leg, fries, cake, fish, and mushrooms. Aside from that, it's a pretty generic puzzle game like Candy Crush. One major complaint I have for the Enderman app is the fact that it takes so long for your Enderman to recharge its energy, which is why I had to make a modded version so I can just freely explore the game, without having to abandon my family and friends to just pursue my professional Pocket Enderman career. At this point, I was expecting this to be the last thing I covered before moving on to Slendy. However, while researching this video, I came across a Pocket Enderman version I had never seen before, because up until now, everything I've covered came from the 1.2 version of the game. I found the app version 1.4 while scrolling through some old Russian forum. The post I found it on was using a completely different icon, which is what initially caught my eye, and buried towards the bottom of the post was a download link. Like the great internet user I am, who values privacy and safety, I did absolutely nothing and clicked, my screen went black, and some weird red text appeared reading, "You have to become a channel member right now." Like any sane person would, I scrolled down to the join button and clicked it, just so I can support my favorite content creator who makes niche videos on Pixelgun 3D, as well as producing high quality content despite being a one-man team. Surprisingly, it downloaded an APK. there was still a chance it was a fake APK, a virus, or it just simply didn't work. So I just did what I normally do and extracted the game files. Now I had to spend about an hour to go through the files and find anything that might be different from the previous version. I took note of the changes I came across, and there was actually a decent amount change between these versions. Starting with the 2 minigames that were added. Falling Ball was a simple minigame that used the tilt controls, a second minigame called Sky Jump, which was just a knockoff of the Doodle Jump game. Regardless, this doesn't mean they weren't fun. These 2 minigames were significantly more enjoyable than the initial 4 I had played. The second notable change was that this version introduced the toilet system. Now you actually have to pay attention to when your Enderman needs to use the bathroom. Now that a working Slendy APK has been recovered, it's worth noting that Slendy wasn't simply a name change. The Slendy app introduced a lot of features like the Facebook Friends integration, a new Flappy Slendy minigame, and includes what seems to be a social system. This can be seen in the FB Trainer script, which contains the message, "You can visit a random player for 30 coins." This message was actually pretty funny because the random visit button only checks whether the player has 30 coins. Right after loading you into the room, the game deducts 40 coins instead of 30 from your balance. Let's take a step back. The Facebook integration doesn't seem that important, but it's actually the most interesting finding I made within the Slendy app. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting to find anything, but I actually came across 2 things, starting with the first finding. Like I mentioned, the Facebook integration was added, so naturally I focused on this new addition. At first, everything seemed normal. As I went further through the Facebook scripts, I found a hard-coded value named Jew killed 100, total Jews 600,000. This wasn't entered by the player, it was embedded directly within the game's code. You're probably just as confused as I was. Where this actually appears makes it even weirder. The value is inside the profile upload code, which runs with the Facebook sign-in flow. When a player pressed the sign-in button, Slendy would attempt to send their Facebook ID, name, level, and accessories to the ReallySoft server, but alongside that would be a field titled scores, containing this strange value. It's a similar situation to nword.png. Just why? There was still one more unexplained thing buried within the game files. I came across this while going through extracted files for Enderman 1.2, 1.4, and Slendy 1.7. Within the assets folder would be a file titled demovid.mp4. Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but that clip is a little unsettling. Looking at the metadata for the file, it reveals a creation date of July 7th, 2010. The first thing that came to mind when I was trying to figure out why this was here was the fact that it was just thrown in as a troll by the uploader of the APK. I ruled this theory out pretty quickly, since it's present in both versions of Enderman and the Slendy app, which all came from different sources. I searched Google to see if any other users had come across this weird file. I scrolled through quite a few Reddit threads. I even asked my friends over at Pixel Gun Mayhem who are extremely familiar with Unity development, but they were just as confused. After some more research, the most plausible explanation I could come up with is that this clip was originally part of an old Unity video playback plugin or some sort of sample. After seeing all of the reused assets and visual similarities between these 3 games, it's safe to assume that they were made by the same company. But as you know, at the time, ReallySoft would change their name fairly regularly, so I wanted to find some actual solid proof that would connect them. So I located the signed certificates for Minecraft 3D, Enderman 1.4, and Slendy 1.7. Looking at the cert.rsa file, if you simply open it in a text editor, it returns a bunch of nothing. However, if you open the command prompt within the meta-inf folder and execute the command cert-util-dump cert.rsa, even more nonsense will be returned, but now it's a bit more readable. So we can see the organization field on the certificate is listed as ReallySoft, and the SHA1 fingerprint matches across Minecraft 3D, Enderman 1.4, and Slendy 1.7. That means all 3 APKs were signed using the same signature. God, the things I do for y'all guys. Earlier I mentioned that several of these games had one thing in common, which was some kind of Minecraft skin maker or skin uploader. However, while looking for more information on Pocket Enderman, I found what appears to be a standalone version. More specifically, I came across this website that showed all of the archived listings under the Alex Krasnov profile. Starting from the top, we can see Pocket Enderman, Minerun 3D, Pixelgun 3D, and then an app that I've never seen before, Skins Maker for Minecraft fans, followed by Bubble Duck Panic. I decided to look into the Skin Maker app a bit more. As I expected, this app unfortunately didn't really archive anything aside from the basic information. Luckily, this listing contained the original App Store ID. After dedicating a few more hours of my life to digging into it, I eventually came across the Sensor Tower page. The original App Store page itself is obviously dead. The Sensor Tower page had retained some of its information, including 5 old Apple screenshot links that still somehow worked. These screenshots reveal that this was surprisingly a complete skin editor app. It included preset skins, the ability to create a new skin, and a button labeled upload. You could rotate the character in 3D, select individual body parts. There were also for some reason options to print, share, and save the skin. Looking past this, even the presets were pretty interesting. The 3 shown in the screenshots for the app listing were Harlem Boy, Star Captain, and for some reason Slenderman. Unfortunately, I was unable to find any videos or the actual app file itself, so I can't really confirm just how the app worked. Believe it or not, the screenshots weren't the most interesting thing preserved on this page. When I looked in the publisher section, it had listed a name I had never seen before, Ilia Breyman. This was pretty weird because if you remember, the original site I found this on, Apps Me Now, attributed the app to Alex Krasnov, while Sensor Tower's retained App Store information attributed the exact same App Store ID to someone named Ilia Breyman. There is the possibility that the account could have just been renamed, or the Sensor Tower page was just simply wrong. Regardless, it gave me a brand new profile to search. At this point, I was focused way more on this new name than the app itself. What I found was the archived Ilia Breyman profile contains 21 inactive app listings, with all of them being ones I had never seen before. The apps mostly consisted of the typical knockoff style apps, like MC Cam and Birds Wars. Might I add, the MC Cam app icon looks a bit similar to the Pixelgun augmented reality app, but one specific app caught my attention. Oh shit, not that one. Slenderman Legend. An augmented reality shooter that used your camera on your device. This is already extremely similar to the Pixelgun augmented reality app. It gets even more strange when you compare the app descriptions. The description of Pixelgun says that your mission is to survive, misspelling survive. That exact typo appears in the Slenderman Legend description where it says try to survive. That typo alone obviously doesn't prove that both of the apps were created by the same person, but the fact that they're both augmented reality camera shooters and both have the same typo makes it a bit harder to just write it off as a coincidence. As far as finding the actual Skins Maker app, the file is still lost. This wasn't a complete dead end since I was able to recover what the app looked like paired with an entirely different publisher archive. The Ilia Breyman profile turned out to be a much larger rabbit hole than I expected, so I'll continue looking into it on my own time. Taking a look at everything that's been found since the last video, I can confidently say I ended this investigation with way more questions than I started with. At the surface, most of these look like random Minecraft knockoffs that definitely aren't worth thinking about, but they play a much larger part in the early Pixelgun timeline, and only reinforce just how little we actually know about the people behind Pixelgun 3D. What I find the most interesting is that none of this was sitting in some obscure lost media archive. The game files were simply just buried on random websites. Or in the case of the Skins Maker screenshots, they only survived because for some reason the original App Store images were still sitting on the Apple servers, despite the original App Store listing page being long gone. Of course, the working game files of early versions of Pixelgun, Bubble Duck Panic, and the original Pixelgun augmented reality app are still yet to be recovered. It's worth noting that Pocket Enderman and Slendy were in the exact same position not too long ago. So for now, just because these apps are still lost doesn't necessarily mean they're gone forever. The investigation doesn't have to end here, which is why I encourage you to share any memories or possible recollection you have of these apps, since your comment might actually be the very spark that recovers a lost piece of Pixelgun history. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're not subscribed, you should totally subscribe. At the time of recording this, I'm not yet at 10,000 subscribers, so now is your last chance to claim your before 10k ticket. As always, I wanted to personally thank each and every one of my channel members. Thank you to Baxter1408, 6.9, you changed your username, Nexizel, PSA, AussiePG3D, Psyched Guy, Not the Goat Drain, and Venti Iced Tea. Thank you so much for supporting me and my content. Truly means the world to me. Thank you. Goodbye.